been a big week for us with finals, and then obviously preparation here for tomorrow's game versus App State. And been really impressed with them, watching them on tape. Have a lot of similar league, or excuse me, same league as the UT Arlington team that came in a couple years ago here, and on paper a lot of similarities in terms of their profile. Really good numbers, terrific offensive numbers, depth and size across the board. Really, maybe is in some ways as good a positional size as we've seen in terms of bigger guards, bigger wings. They're certainly bigger than us at those guard and wing spots. And they have good interior size too. So got some impressive wins. Obviously beat some teams, beat Davidson, beat South Florida. Both those teams really good, and played Iowa State very close and some others. So they're a tough, physical, veteran team that's going to play exceptionally hard, and we'll need to be. I'm interested to see how we'll respond after kind of a week of final exams, and you're always concerned about any game, but certainly concerned about the game after finals. So interested to see how our guys respond.
Chris,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Chris, this is a group of players, I guess, that maybe hasn't always taken opponents like this seriously, but it seems this year maybe they have, or at least doing a better job of that. Just like, how are you getting the message across to them that you can't, look past any of these teams?
Well, I think that it's a good question, because I think the reality is in today's game there really is a lot of parity across the board. You see a lot of guys that can play at really any level of college basketball, and you see that with graduate transfers who might transfer up, so to speak, and they come in and make a real impact on the team that they're playing on. We've seen that for the last number of years. So I think our guys have an understanding how capable a lot of these teams are, and certainly App State is, I think the fact that they do have a lot of similarities to the UT Arlington that came in here and won a couple of years ago, it certainly, I think, raises and not just that, but their ability, what they've done so far this year, raises the attention. And what I really rely on and lean on in those situations is our older guys who've been through it, because young guys don't know. They just don't know. It's not their fault, but freshmen have no idea how good players are at all levels of college basketball. They just have no idea. So if in sometimes, most times, they're going to take it more from an older guy. So we'll see tomorrow if our approach is one that is on point where it needs to be. We expect a really highly competitive game, and certainly have relied on our older guys to communicate that.
When you have a layoff like this, and you said last week the two games you worry about are before and after finals, what do you look for during the week in practice, and maybe signs of a letdown that you can address, and have you seen anything like that this week?
No, I think our practice has been pretty good. We've tried to, we gave them some time off earlier in the week, but just because what was most important early in the week is them doing their finals and preparing for that well. But I think we've had some good, we haven't spent a whole week, 2.5-hour practices because of the demands of the week. But I think we've had good attentiveness. That doesn't always translate into good play, but I think we've had good attentiveness. I've also tried to keep an eye on our conditioning as you go through two games and a couple weeks here. I think we've got a team that can get out of shape pretty quickly. Just some of it's because of our body types. So I'm trying to keep an eye on that in terms of our overall team conditioning, and you're always trying to keep tabs on that.
And then do you have any update on Micah and Kyle and what their availability is for tomorrow?
Yeah, both guys have practiced, practiced yesterday, I should say. Micah had a little bit of a scare 2 days ago where he banged it again. So I would say he's probably right now more limited than Kyle, just because his, he's just kind of gotten banged up with it more. And he didn't re-injure it, but I think it was a concern. He kind of fell awkwardly on it. So we'll see. I think both guys will kind of be a game day, right before tip type of a decision.
When you've gotten into this part of the schedule historically, is this the time of year where you like to add more things, the offense, defense, things like that, or is this more of a time to reassess?
Yeah, it is. I would like to add some more things, although I think that for us, I have less in at this point than probably any year I've been a head coach. And if you were to say why, I think it's probably taken us a little bit longer to execute some of the things that we have in, so I haven't wanted to get ahead of ourselves. And we do have some guys playing multiple positions, and it's a new system for them to learn. But we probably have less in, certainly have less in, I know, than what I've had in the past. So I think we'll, throughout these next few weeks, look to add some things, both offensively and in some ways defensively. And we'll see how we can kind of digest that and execute that.
As you're discussing at the State's guards, what is it about their guard play that concerns you? And do they remind you of any team that you've played so far?
I think I was trying to think of another team that has as good a positional size, kind of the 1, 2, 3. The point guard's 6'5", and he is really good. He is really good and really talented offensively. He's a lefty that can score at every level. Obviously, you look at his numbers and you can see that based on, he's an older kid, strong, built a little bit like JT, and can do it all in terms of scoring and facilitating for his teams. I think Gonzaga was the biggest team we played across the board with their size. But I don't know there's any one particular team. They're as athletic as any team that has come in here. Clemson had really good athleticism across the board. These guys have very, very good. Somebody's here. Somebody's ride's here, ready to pick you up. So yeah, I think they're really really gifted. They're going to team that's going to, no question, going to win a lot of games. No question in my mind.
You mentioned that UT Arlington game from a couple years ago. Is that something you brought up with the guys, especially the guys that played in that game?
Yeah, no, we've not talked about it a whole lot. I think we've talked about App State in terms of who they are, but I think I've kind of let our older guys to decide how much they want to discuss those types of moments. I do think out of experiences like that come a great appreciation for how good teams are, and we'll certainly use that here throughout the season, just how capable teams are.
And with the young guys, like you said, sometimes they don't know what they're going up against. Is that just a matter of they come from high school where a lot of them come from dominant programs, or they're just the best guy, and they have to learn that even though you're not in the Big Ten yet, it's still college basketball?
Yeah, I worked 1 year as a assistant coach for a football team, Snyder High School in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Coach's name was Russ Isaac. Okay, he was great. He was state champion football coach, and every time he'd bring the freshmen in at the beginning of the year, and he would probably say this, he wouldn't just say it the first day, he'd say it over and over. I want all you freshmen to know that you know nothing about nothing. He'd say it over and over, like, you know nothing about nothing. Now, I've not done that. He said it in his own way, but the reality is they just don't know because they haven't experienced it. And they haven't seen. Now, I think they're learning. I think you get an appreciation as you go through and you play and you get knocked around a little bit. But, we've got some freshmen that are playing pretty important roles. And I do think that, they need to have and do have an appreciation. But it's different when you've been through the battles like Jae'Sean Tate and Bates-Diop, and you've just seen what that's all about. It's even different in some ways for a guy like CJ, who's just kind of been through it 1 year. So again, that's why we relied on those guys.
Chris, you said on the conference call the other day that in regards to JT playing point, that it's probably a little easier to play down position than it is to play up. But I guess along those lines, what is JT's practice like? Is his workload like much different from other players you've had in the past, having to play the 3, 4, I guess, and the 1 in practice?
Yeah, it's different, I think, in terms of the mental requirement that he has to go through. And, I think a couple years ago, my second year at Butler, Roosevelt Jones was a guy who played at the 3 and the 1, and mid-year we actually transitioned him strictly to the 1 and started the 1 and then played the backup. And he had played the 1 some in high school, so he's a little bit more, his feel was a little bit different. But I think JT's done a good job. But there is a mental requirement when you're learning 2 positions, because as we know with Jae'Sean, he's in a lot of ways he's best when he can just kind of play, and there can just be freedom and simplicity to how he plays. He can just play. So as a coach, you've not wanted him to think too much, which is why we have less in now than we ever have, just because we wanted to keep it simple. But it's a lot. We've also asked him at times to defend the best perimeter player, and that's a lot. So, but that's what most seniors who are trying to help their teams play well this time of year are doing. Is they're defending the best player a lot of times, and they're asked to do a lot of other things.
And then you said that he's used to having the ball in his hands, obviously, but the playmaking is kind of a different animal. How do you coach playmaking? Is it a lot of video work to see the spots on the floor? Or are you like standing next to him when he's out there to show him the spots where he should be looking? Yeah,
it's a lot of film, a lot of working on, almost like a quarterback, where you're working on, can you read defenses and read how you're being played and read secondary defenders that are coming. It's almost like a quarterback where you're trying to teach those reads. And some guys are more instinctive with those kind of things. And that's why I've never looked at a point guard necessarily as a size. I've looked at, there are plenty of, Ben Simmons has a lot of point guard ability to him, right? He's 6, whatever he is. So, point guards come in all different shapes and sizes. There is an instinct to it and a feel to it that's required, and I think he's coming along there. It's a significant concern. It remains one of my concerns across the board is our team playmaking. It's been a concern from day one. I think we have a long way to go in a lot of areas, but our team playmaking, we also have a long ways to go just in that area. And we don't have a lot of guys that naturally that's what they do. When you go kind of look down our roster, that's not really what a lot of guys do. But I think if all of them can buy into making the extra pass and making the right play and moving the ball, then maybe collectively we can kind of have the playmaking that we need. Because I don't think we can rely on just one guy. And it's one of the things we've thought through as coaches is late in games, normally you're relying on your guards to be playmakers and make those reads in situations. Now it could be a little bit different for us in terms of what we do late in games.
App State's another team that just, like you said about William and Mary, just does not turn the ball over or forces turnovers per se. And you said we'll really know more about CJ and how much he's improved turning the ball over when you guys play a team like that. So just wondering, in games like this, what are you looking for in the half-court offense and with CJ? Is it just speed, making good reads? What specifically do you look for?
You must have a Ken Palm subscription.
I have it pulled up right here.
Okay. Okay. I think we'll know. I don't want to make too much of his two or three game stretch here, and I didn't really make too much of his prior stretch. I think just over time we'll see if his numbers can continue to improve in terms of his turnover rate, his assist to turnover percentage, and I think it will, but he's got to be really committed to that, and I think he understands it. You know, he's a very coachable young man. He gets it. I also think Andrew Dockage can continue to grow in that area. So can JT, our three primary guys, as well as all of our guys. But we'll know more here, you know, as we get more into the season, you know, how he's progressing in that area. And I don't think we're looking at the last, you know, he's not like he's over with 4 or 5 turnover games. I think that could happen again, and we're just going to have to figure out how to respond.
Kate and Jae'Sean are both going to graduate, and I just wonder how important that is to you and to the program to see guys that are getting a degree after they've been here for a few years.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's what a credit to Jae'Sean and to Keita that those two guys have graduated and done what they needed to do in the classroom. I think it speaks a lot to who they are, you know, as people and how they've been raised and what's important to them. And, you know, and both guys have been here for a good bit, and, you know, they've taken care of their business. And it's been really impressive to see. And I think Cam, with a good, solid year in spring, will be right behind them, and that'll be a terrific accomplishment for him as well. And that's something it's very important to us as a program. You know, our graduation rate, our APR, those things are things that are very important to us, and we have really committed since we got the job to making sure our players understand how important those things are and to getting better in those areas, because we need to get better in those areas.
And just as a whole, coming through finals, are you get everybody eligible and good to go going forward?
I haven't got all the grades in. We've gotten a few in right now. You know, coaches will tell you all the time they don't like to be surprises. They don't like to be surprised. Don't be surprised. I have a guy I worked for one time that had that hanging on his office. He doesn't like it. So I think we're going to be okay. You never know with young people, but I think we're going to be where we need to be. I think we're poised to have a pretty good academic semester, but I'm always cautiously optimistic with that until we see the final grades.
When you're dealing with so many things like you were, how important was that to have guys, your two leaders here, graduating? Like when you start talking about building things and getting guys to look at the old upperclassmen, how important is something like this for all of that?
It's really important. It can't be really, in a lot of ways, be overstated, because I do think you have an example to look to those two guys as younger guys and say, hey, listen, those guys are, you know, they're taking care of business, they're doing the right thing. They're getting a degree from The Ohio State University that's going to provide incredible opportunities for them beyond their playing days. It is a terrific degree that they earned with a lot of work and a lot of commitment, and it is going to prove to be incredibly valuable for them. And we don't ever want to dismiss that as coaches. Obviously, not everybody's, you know, is going to stay here, you know, potentially, you know, 4 years. But those that do, that have the opportunity, we really want them to take advantage of that. And it has been. I think those that have followed our program closely know that, you know, we had to make some tough decisions early in our tenure about, you know, a young man who was ineligible and a long way from getting eligible, and we had to make some decisions there because academics is going to be, really, really important to us and to our program. So I'm really proud of those two guys, and like I said, I'm hoping, Cam is going to be right there behind them in the spring.